not working. No, sir.
Showtime, baby. It's Frankly Hockey, reporting from St. Paul, Minnesota. I am John Buccigross. Blackhawks Wild tonight, ESPN Plus. That's Frank Seravalli, the Hockey Insider. It's a beautiful day in the state of hockey, Frank. How is it in Philly?
Not a beautiful day, but getting warmer. I can say that. We are getting like tantalizingly close to golf season. I know you have it year round in Naples. We just don't have that, and we're getting very, very close to getting the sticks out.
Got an email from Plymouth, Massachusetts, where I take care of Mom, and their tee times this weekend. They had 2 feet of snow like 12 ago. And it rained, it got warm, and there's pins in the ground. We need revenue. We need cart fees. Stat.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
All right. So hello, Victory Plus, X, YouTube, like, subscribe, hug, spoon, high five, the whole thing. 11 games tonight in the National League. Big ones, Frank. It's a big night. Bruins, Red Wings, Blue Jackets all play. The Islanders play the Sens. So that's one of those things where it could be hard to catch someone or someone coming from behind, like especially a 3-point game. Out west, Kraken, Sharks, Kings, Preds, all kinds of great action tonight. Speculate to accumulate later in what will Frank be on this very important night in the NHL. March 19th, 2026. Happy birthday, Louis DeBrusque. 55 years old today. Of course, the Edmonton Oiler analyst, son Jake's pops. Great head of hair, great guy. Happy birthday. Double nickel for Louis DeBrusque. He will punch you in the face, Frank, if you're not nice.
Yeah, he's a very
Vladimir
lucky man.
Konstantinov is 59 years old. Of course, tragedy when the Red Wings were celebrating their Stanley Cup in that limousine. He was 30 years old at the time, 59 years old today to Vladimir Konstantinov, the former Red Wing. Mike Motto, 48 years old, former Hobie Baker winner, NHLer. I'm going to talk some college hockey, so I want to shout out Mike Motto. Happy birthday, 48 years old. Tony Granato, speaking of some college hockey ties, University of Wisconsin as a player, would later coach the Badgers, former NHL player. He's our Frankly Hockey guest today. One of the best in Tony Granato, an absolute prince of a human being. All right, Franks and Beans time. Before we get to the Frankly Hockey rundown, some news and notes, tidbits and wieners to get your hockey day started. That's what we do. Flyers, first time in franchise history, Frank, winning 5 straight road games, all by a goal. Rick Tockett's boys, they're kind of hanging around. They beat the Ducks last night. The Ducks now 1 point ahead of the Oilers for first place in the Pacific with a game in hand, 14 games to go. But the Flyers, interesting how they're going to evaluate their season, their players. Like, they seem like they're really in the mushy middle, like right in the middle of the mushy middle. Like, how good can we be? We don't suck anymore. We're too good for that. But what do we got to do to get good?
Yeah, that's a really hard gap to bridge. And I mean, my favorite part about last night was just the absolute pettiness of Flyers fans who made it a point to travel to Anaheim to mercilessly boo Cutter Gauthier, which was obviously picked up on the Victory Plus feed, on home ice in Anaheim, getting booed. And look, this guy, being a Philadelphia native, having, obviously spent my whole career here, like, he's reaching JD Drew levels of vitriol in this city, and understandably so with the success that he's had with the Ducks. But the way that he spurned the Flyers still just does not sit well.
Stars beat the Avalanche 2-1 last night. A couple of heavyweights. They're now 15-1-1 since January the 23rd. 17 of those by one goal. So you can either say they're getting really lucky or just play good, solid hockey. You can look at it both ways. Cale Makar, first defenseman with 3 consecutive 20-goal seasons since Phil Housley in the late 80s, early 90s, and Al McGinnis, same time period. He's early 90s, 34 years ago. So Cale hits 20 again. The Oilers put Lee on an LTIR. We pretty much knew that he wasn't going to play the rest of the regular season. Now we see, Frank, will he show up game 1 of the playoffs? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I think he's certainly on track to do that. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they found a way to get him back for the last game or two of the regular season.
All right. We mentioned the Bruins have a big game tonight in Winnipeg. Looks like it's Swayman's net tonight for Boston. Lucas Reichel called up Frank from Providence. He's going to play with Lindholm and Geekie. Another chance for this guy. Looks like he should be a great hockey player. And he's gotten chances. He's getting another one tonight.
Every tool in the toolbox, every skill you could possibly want to have has just been unable to put it together, and skates like the wind.
Just a reminder to folks out there, just kind of saw this, perusing all the articles and stuff. Just a reminder, neck guards are mandatory for every player next year who hasn't played a game. So back in the day when I was a kid, they started doing it with helmets. Every rookie that came in had to wear a helmet. Slowly, we went until no one had one, until Craig McTavish was still bucketless. Then they did the same thing with visors. I think that might have been Crosby's rookie year, maybe, is when anyone who didn't play had to wear a visor. And again, there were guys without visors. We still got 4 without visors. And now starting next year, we'll talk about Cole Hutson in a second. He played his first game last night, so he doesn't have to wear a neck guard next year. He doesn't want, but all the rookies will be wearing them. And we'll see over time who's the last one not to have a neck guard. Visors, neck guard.
I mean, about time. I wish the NHL didn't grandfather it, but I understand the players who really value that freedom and flexibility. And look, I just think the NHL has been so lucky, and the players have been so lucky how much they've skirted some potentially catastrophic injuries. Like, the league keeps a clip file running of all the close calls, and there's somewhere between 40 and 65 insanely close calls every season that I wish they could just play that video for players before the season starts and say, look how lucky you've been. At some point, someone isn't going to be lucky. Do whatever you can for yourself and your family.
For sure. Yeah, it's 50-second shifts, 45-second shifts. Doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal to have on. Certainly that was always my big fear. My 2 boys playing, youth hockey growing up. It's like whenever I said, just stay on your feet as much as you can. Don't get your wrists and your neck and everything down by skate blades. And of course, sometimes just a freakish thing can happen. But even those pileups we see when we see these teams win these championships, Frank, I always start to get these teams jumping on each other. Unfortunately, there's going to be a horrific injury at some point from, those dog piles of celebrations. I hate, to bring that up, but it's just real. I cringe every time I see it.
Me too. And I got to be honest, we haven't talked about this before, so we're treading new ground here. But as a coach, in my backpack, I keep 2 Stop the Bleed kits. They're like $150. You can get them on Amazon. Like, cannot stress enough, the stuff that you would need is not readily available to you. Good luck going to find the first aid or whatever it is in your local rink. I hope you know exactly where it's positioned, but I keep it in my backpack on the bench. God forbid, just in case. It keeps me up at night thinking about all these things that could happen. And I see it as my duty as the coach of these kids, as the person entrusted with their safekeeping for an hour or 4 hours a week. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't have the proper stuff with me to take care of whatever happens.
That's phenomenal, Frank. I'd never thought about that. Like every coach pack of things like that. And that was my big fear. My kids would play these 7 a.m. games at these prep schools in rural Connecticut. Like, what if there was a situation where someone did get, a skate in the neck or in the wrist? There's no ambulance there. Like, at least high school games, I mean, you go to your high school football game, there's an ambulance
Yep.
outside just in case, right? But these youth hockey games, early mornings, rural, so far from a hospital, we have none of that. So yeah, it's really I think USA Hockey could be really proactive there to coaches. Like, we need to have the best you can do in those if that ever comes up.
It's the best $150 you can spend. I'm telling you, instead of going out to dinner one night, buy one of these kits. They're on Amazon, put it in your backpack, and hopefully never think about it or use it.
That's great. So any hockey coaches out there or know a hockey coach, spread the word. That's a great idea. And certainly I'm sure you have fundraisers for it, help your coaches out, whatever. But that's absolutely a must. It sure seems like to me. The Capitals beat the Sens in regulation last night. Man, 3-point games are such a buzzkill for me in a lot of ways, Frank. But man, when you lose in regulation this time of year, it seems like it hurts even more. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like 2 losses almost. Alex Ovechkin got his 25th goal of the year, 999th playoffs and regular season combined. Gretzky's the only one who has eclipsed 1,016. If Alex does retire after this year, he won't catch that mark. He'll have to come back one more because they're not making the playoffs. His 20th 25-goal season ties Gordy for most in NHL history. We'll talk about Cole Hutson. Cole gets his first NHL and also his BU teammate. Cole Eiserman also signed a 3-year entry-level deal with the Islanders, but his starts in the fall, so he's not burning a year this year. He'll help if he wants to play in the AHL, he's got to do those PTO contracts to get to play this year, and then his deal will start next year. I guess it's all about leverage.
Yeah, and there's 2 different ways to look at it. And the Hudsons actually know this pretty well from Lane and his time with the Montreal Canadiens. He played 2 games and burned the first year of his ELC when he left school. And when he did that, it also decreased put some money in his pocket sooner rather than later, but it also decreased his leverage a bit as he got to this next contract because he was a 10-2C player at the expiration of his contract and therefore didn't have any rights to even get an offer sheet. So no arbitration rights, no offer sheet. It kind of makes you dead in the water in terms of how you can leverage the team that you're signing with. And that certainly probably cost him some bucks as the Canadians did their calculation. So, immediate gratification is great, but I'd prefer the longer term leverage.
Yeah, for sure. I remember talking to a GM who they think maybe we should burn years. Go ahead, burn the year. It sets up better for us in the next contract.
Yeah, people don't realize the ramifications that come with it.
Right. And the Canes beat the Penguins in overtime. That was a really good game. I went to my first PWHL game last night, right across the street from the St. Paul Hotel. Wanted to check that out. Went over with Cassie Campbell-Pascal. So I ended up watching kind of the end of that game on my phone. As that game ended, the third period was going back and forth. So I'm kind of walking back, watching on my phone. What a great hockey game that was as the Canes beat the Pens in overtime. The Penguins are now winless in 16 of 21 games decided in overtime in a shootout this season. Second worst ahead of the Blues for, man, you just think how many more points they even could have. But Sidney Crosby returns, Frank, and he gets his 28th goal of the year. Doesn't really matter who plays for the Penguins. They kind of just look the same all the time. And we talked about it in the show a couple of days ago. Erik Karlsson continues to really drive the pace of that team. They've been playing fast and quick since the fear. It was noticeable early on, and Karlsson seems to be a big reason why.
He's been electric. This has been one of the better seasons of Erik Karlsson's career. And yes, I understand what I'm saying. There's a guy who has a 100-point season under his belt and has won multiple Norris trophies. But the job that he's done for Pittsburgh this year, he's playing some of his best hockey right now.
All right, let's get to the Frankly Hockey Rundown and begin with our top story. Cole Hutson Made his Capital debut, and those of us who've been watching him play college hockey for a couple of years, and I'm sure many fans saw him play the World Junior as well. This is not a surprise. Expected immediate impact, much like Lane. I kind of did some comparable numbers, Frank. They both played 2 years at Boston University. Lane played 77 games, and Cole played 74, a few more because obviously their season's over. He probably would have reached about almost identical. Lane had 30 goals. Cole had 24. Lane had 67 assists. Cole had 56. 97 points for Lane, 80 for Cole. And again, don't forget, Lane had Macklin Celebrini for a year, and that's going to up your assists. Otherwise, they're basically the identical player at BU. How they break people down at the blue line. Cole's a little different. He might have a little better shot than Lane, a touch, but we saw it last night, how he can break down with his spatial awareness. He's one of those defensemen who's like an extra center. We talk about how the game is changing. When guys like Quinn Hughes and Cole and Lane, and I don't think Makar is like that. He's like different to me. I don't know what it is, but these guys are like centers. They find you. They'll turn up, they'll curl up, and they'll find the open man.
I could not have been more impressed with what I saw from Cole Hutson last night. And I do think he looks different than Lane. He looks, I don't know if this is a fair way to say it. Tell me if you think I'm nuts. He looks a little sturdier than Lane. Like, it's not that he's like beefier, but he just has like a little more like thickness to him. And I don't know if that even necessarily makes him less dynamic. Lane is probably a little bit shiftier than Cole, but the same edge work, the same vision, and the same puck skills all exist in both Hudsons. And I had an observer that I trust that watches a ton of hockey, and he texted me last night and he goes, Cole Hutson doesn't look like a star in the making. He looks like a superstar in the making. And I couldn't agree more. I know one game and be careful, but there's a 3-minute clip that's going around X today, and we didn't have time to show the whole thing, but it's like his highlights from his first NHL game, and the plays that he made, how much of a threat he was from basically the opening shift on. It's really something to behold. And then, of course, gets this empty netter for his first NHL goal. Check this out. Look at Connor McMichael. Shoot!
Yeah. Look at Ovi. Pass it to me.
Yeah.
And here it is again. Look, there's McMichael pointing. Great shot. There's Ovi ready just in case. And we were talking about just before the show, one, do I want to get my first goal empty net, or do I pass it to Ovechkin to assist on his 1,000th career line? That, I think that would have been cooler. Of course, he's not going to think that in that moment. And once he sees McMichael say, point, I have to shoot this. I'm game one for the rookie. I'm going to shoot this. But he did have Ovi there, who would have had a little one-timer for 1,000. Funny how that happened right there.
It would have been special, but I think no one really wants to score their first NHL goal as an empty netter. Like, you'd want it to be magical and in a big moment. But I think there is something to the notion of first game, first goal, and how special that feels. You saw the reaction from his family. I mean, it is a really cool night. And I hate to draw the comparison, but for a Washington Capitals team that was probably looking for a little something, I think this kind of lessens the sting from John Carlson's departure. You know that this guy's coming. The Caps have had that in the back of their mind all season, and he looks like someone who is going to make an immediate impact, not just to close out this season, but to hit the ground running next year.
Yeah, he will break people down on the power play like Lane does, a little bit like Quinn Hughes does. No one does it like Quinn, but that's what he'll look like. And like we said, we thought when the Caps made the move with Carlson, part of it was the Cole Hutson factor, to bring him in, give him room to move and air to breathe, give him the role right away. You can be successful in this league at a young age. He's had 2 years of college hockey experience, made the Frozen Four, World Junior gold medalist, best player in the tournament, dominated people in his age group in the World Juniors. No reason why you can slowly take that to the NHL when those guys, most of those guys will be in the league as you hit your prime. So yeah, they should be bullish on him, like you said, after seeing what he's done against his peers. No reason why not to believe that another small defenseman that NHL GMs made the mistake of letting go to the second round. Imagine a late first round pick of Lane Hutson or Cole Hutson on one of these great teams. Yep. We'll see if that affects future smallish defensemen along the way. Well, the playoff format debate rages on, Frank. Of course, the actual right now, if the season ended today in the East, Carolina, Detroit. Now, that would have been the 1-8, obviously, because the team with the most points plays the second wild card. That's always pretty much going to be 1-8. Also, if the season ended today, it would be Buffalo, Boston. That would be fun. Tampa Bay, Montreal, fun. Pittsburgh Islanders, okay. But if it was 1-8, it would be, as we said, Carolina, Detroit, Buffalo, Boston, those. But it'd be Tampa Bay Islanders, whatever. Montreal, Pittsburgh, sit in Montreal, that'd be better. But again, that's kind of the situation is more in the West. Actual, Colorado, Seattle, Anaheim gets Utah, Dallas, Minnesota, as we know, Edmonton, Vegas. 1 versus 8 would be Colorado, Seattle, Dallas, Vegas, Minnesota, Utah, Anaheim, Edmonton. And so the debate came up, Frank, about the format, and Gary Bettman, as usual, responded.
Yeah, pretty defiant in his response, saying essentially, we like it how it is. And this is the exact quote from that general managers meeting that wrapped on Wednesday. I'm more than comfortable with this format. It gives us a sensational first round, probably the best playoff first round in any sport. We get more games and longer series as a result of the format. And you can always pick at certain situations in any given year and say, well, I'd like it to be different that year. But if you look at the body of work that our playoffs represent over time, what we have now works extraordinarily well. So on the surface, I agree with everything that he said, because the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs is arguably among the most compelling in all of sports. It's right up there with what we're about to see today with March Madness. And that's great. But I also get the point of view of Bill Guerin, who says the third best team in the league shouldn't be playing the second best team in the league in the first round. So Bill Guerin is the latest in a long line of general managers who have been in this spot that have voiced a complaint about the playoff format. But I do have to give the commissioner credit for one part of this quote that I hadn't ever really thought about or considered before, which is games go longer in a series as a result of the format, that there are more gates, more playoff games, more millions of dollars in just the first round. And sometimes that then snowballs into the later rounds. That is also part of the equation. Like in the end, what you're trying to get are more games and gates. And not only that, but the product and the television is really compelling, that I get why the NHL sticks with what they have.
Yeah, playoff gates are very profitable for owners. Ticket prices go up. You're sold out. We talked about Edmonton with just enormous playoff gates. You're talking 20, 30 million a night they've had in some situations, even higher. The cup final, it's astronomical, the amount of money some of these rings can generate. And Edmonton is a particular cash register with their playoff gates. But again, when it doesn't incentivize Utah to move up in the standings, and it does incentivize Minnesota to move down if you're trying to avoid it. It's like you could do that if you wanted. Again, sometimes we've seen situations in the past where a team might rest someone in the last game of the year. They're not going to do it over a quadrant of a season to do that. But it does kind of, anytime you go in that area, Frank, that's when I think you're kind of playing with a little bit of fire, when you're just not incentivizing teams to win.
Well, and I think you're in Minnesota tonight to see the Wild and the Blackhawks. I mean,
yep.
The Wild have hit a malaise because they can't catch Dallas, who's just coming off a 15-0-1 run, and they can't fall far enough to slide to where Utah is for fourth in the division. So they're kind of locked in, no threat of someone catching you, no chance to catch the team in front of you. That's how you go on a run where you lose a handful of games in a row to non-playoff teams, forcing your GM to come out and say that this is unacceptable. But I get it. It's human nature. Everyone's looking at the schedule going, we need to peak a month from now. What are we going crazy for when we have nothing to win or lose?
I guess the best, go back 10 years or go back, I guess you just kind of look at it. What would the matchups be? What have they been? And like the commissioner said, if once in a while you get one of these, well, you could tell Dallas and Minnesota, win your division. This won't be a problem. So that would be his counter argument. Like, there is incentivized to win. Just win more.
Well, the other incentive is like whether you have to play Dallas in round 1 or 2 or Colorado in round 2 or 3. The argument would be you have to get past them anyway. What's the difference?
Right. But again, that's going to be tough for either Dallas or Minnesota to, assuming Colorado wins. There's no guarantee of that. We've seen upsets before. They haven't been a great team. They've been a good team, but they haven't been a great team the last 20, 30 games. So that will be very difficult. How much would they have left in the tank for a Western Conference final after those two series? That would be another strike against it. As
So
Frank mentioned, I'm in Minnesota. What's that? Any wrap that up?
Would you change it?
I think I would. I always liked the 1-8-2-7, 3-6-4-5. I just did. I don't think people don't care about divisions anymore. They don't care about division rivalries. They just don't care about it. Baseball, it used to be a big deal. The NL East, the AL East, the NL West, the AL West. There were just 4 divisions. It's a little bit easier. The only way to make the playoffs was win your division. Then they added wild cards. And once they start doing that, you take away the emphasis of a division. It becomes like a mini championship when you won your division back in the day. That slowly has ended. Football, as they started adding wild cards, the division doesn't matter anymore. So they just need to look at it as like a product and how can we get the most meaningful games. However, because fans do not care about that stuff anymore, Frank. They care about players and stars and things like that. That's how the world has changed. They don't care about divisions at all.
I just think they also want something to complain about. So then if you change it to 1-8, then someone else is going to find something to complain about then, because you have to then reward the division winners. So theoretically, if you're moving back to 1-8, and I know you're saying people don't care about the divisions, you have to give the Pacific Division winner something to play for. So that team should get the 1 or 2 seed. So then if you then take Anaheim and make them the 2 in the 1-8 format, then everyone's going to complain about that. The next part of it, it's just like, no one ever wins.
Right. Or just make a giant bracket, 1 versus 16. They did that once upon a time, 2-15. We have airplanes. They go,
I would love that. That would be epic. I think that's the easiest solution. Just take the top 16 teams, regardless of division or conference, and have at it. But I mean, we used to have Toronto and LA as a playoff. Like that was a potential first round playoff series. Like why that isn't a thing anymore, I don't understand.
Yeah, we talked about LA and Boston played a best of 3 series once, first round, when it was best 2 out of 3.
Crazy.
LA, Boston. Oh, all right. Let's a couple quick notes here before we get to Tony Granato. Speaking of Minnesota, Bob Motzko and the Gophers parted ways. It was the worst season in 54 years for the Gopher and the changing landscape of hockey. It's very competitive. If you're not on top of all the economic factors and keeping players happy, it's not about recruiting a bunch of players, a good freshman class, and watching them grow for 3 years. Those days are over. And whether or not Minnesota just felt like who's more in tune with that world, I don't know. But they decided they got rid of both their men's and women's coaches in one fell swoop in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think this was a relatively poorly kept secret that Minnesota and I think Bob Motzko were reaching the end of this tenure and partnership. They called it mutually parting ways, which I think is a really fair way to describe it. And the changing landscape is one thing. The passion and intensity of the Golden Gopher program and fan base is another. I think there were a lot of really good things that Bob Motzko did over the last few years, bringing back part of the alumni into the picture, the Frozen Fours and being in the mix. And then toward the tail end kind of left you wanting for that finish that didn't ultimately come. But look, this is going to be a highly sought after job. This is one of the crown jewels of college hockey, and really curious to see who's going to take the reins and what they do with it from here.
Exactly. Do you go with the or do you give Pat Ferschweiler a call at Western Michigan? Certainly just won a national championship, big name, former Red Wing assistant, and certainly try to get something done with someone like that. It's you never know exactly what an athletic director's philosophy is, which way they want to go. That they want to hire a newbie, they feel like maybe they can not control them, but maybe have more say in the direction of the program. Where someone like Ferschweiler would demand probably to make sure some things, what is our appetite to win? How much do you want to? What's the budget for my assistant coaches? How much can I pay my assistant coaches? What's the travel budget to recruit? how much money will we pay players, and what is our salary cap, things like that. And that's where an experienced coach would maybe, but certainly he's proven what he's done at Western Michigan. And the Big Ten is competitive, Frank. It is very, very, very competitive economically now, which we saw what Penn State paid Gavin McKenna, and that's the Big Ten world now. And and I'm sure an experienced coach will want to know, what is our stomach for paying players? Or like I said, would you go to a younger coach?
As my guy Brad Schlossman reported today, the buyout just to get to someone like a Pat Ferschweiler at Western Michigan is $1.9 million. So you're writing a check, if you're Minnesota or their boosters or whoever, for $1.9 million to Western Michigan to get him out of the deal. Then on top of what you need to pay him, like, it becomes a different conversation. So college hockey, just like the other college sports, are they're trying to wrap their brains around this new changing landscape that is evolving on the fly. That part is certainly a big money equation that was never really part of it. Not to that extent.
Hey, absolutely. And Garrett Raboyne of Augustana is a name that I was kind of told multiple people yesterday. He's programmed out of nothing, and here they are, a tournament team, it looks like. So, like I said, do they go that direction, or do they give a Pat Ferschweiler a call? And the Yale job also opened up. It was posted, and I think former NHLer Jeff Hamilton's a big favorite there. There are some tricky things with Ivy League hockey, and some rules and some guardrails and stuff that sometimes are frustrating. But if he wants it, I think Jeff Hamilton's going to get that Yale job as well, the former NHL player. All right. So let's bring in Tony Granato now. We want to talk about Coach of the Year on the Frankly Hockey Rundown. So let's bring in a former NHL coach as we kind of broach that subject. And there is the great Tony Granato. Hello, Tony.
What's up, guys? How are we today?
Great to see you. Great to see you. The pride of Downers Grove, Illinois, University of Wisconsin, 773 games, 36 goals as a rookie. Finished third in the Calder voting. You remember who won Rookie of the Year that year, Tony?
Oh, come on. It was my teammates. It was Brian Leach. I was cheering for him all year.
Brian Leach, Trevor,
was maybe, I don't know, he might have been the MVP of the league that year. He was so freaking good that first year. So that was fun. It was fun to go and jump into the league. When we played together the year before on the Olympic team. So when you can go into the NHL and you got a teammate, and in my case, we had multiple teammates because we had Mike Richter, Peter Laviolette, Corey Millen, Kevin Miller. We're all Ranger draft picks. So we all got to go into the organization at the same time, which was a nice little perk for all of us.
Yeah, Trevor Linden came in second. You got a first place vote. You finished third. Then you were traded January of 1990 with Thomas Sandstrom for Bernie Nichols. You go to LA, you get 3 straight 30-goal seasons. You play with Wayne. Barry Melrose, your coach. You had a great playoff. That must have, when that trade happened, were you heartbroken, or did you see it as an opportunity?
Well, when you get a phone call from the owner, and the owner, Bruce McDowell at the time, says Wayne wanted to trade for you from the time he played against you last time, I think that was pretty good indicator that I was ready to go to LA.
Nice.
So I was surprised Wayne knew my name, let alone actually asked, hey, if we could acquire that guy someday, we should get him. So when you get traded, you got mixed reactions no matter what. You're very grateful for the chance you had to play, which I did in New York. It was a great place to break in as a rookie. Like you said earlier, I got a chance to play with Brian Leach, Mike Richter, lots of my friends. And, of course, you think, well, geez, this is a pretty good fit for me. Maybe I'll be here a while. But the game and the reality of it is, you have to understand that at some point there might be a team that, for whatever reason, feels there's a chance to make each other better. And that situation, I think both teams made each other better.
Tony, really appreciate you joining us. And I wanted to dive in. Part of the reason for having you on, not just to chop it up and talk all things hockey, but when I saw Cole Caulfield hit 40 goals the other night, the first thing I thought of, and Butchie and I were talking about this yesterday offline, just how did so many teams skip over and miss this kid in the draft? Because I remember sending out a tweet that night saying 72 goal scorer coming out of the U.S. National Development Program, another moment of team scouting by tape measure. He goes 15th. You had him for 2 years at Wisconsin. Just about his journey, and you see this is his progression on the screen here: 23, 26, 28, 37, now 40 goals. Is any of this a surprise to you in what he's accomplished at the NHL level?
No, it's not. I guess it's easy to say now that he's played it out the way everyone hoped he would, or at least all of us that had the thrill of coaching him and understanding him. When I look at the draft and I look at the players selected, I kind of understand how teams would have overlooked what he did. But if you knew him and you watched him every day and saw what I saw, you're thinking, I don't know, man, you're passing on a guy that's either DeBrincat. I kept comparing him to DeBrincat that year, saying he's going to get 30 to 35 goals consistently throughout his career at bare minimum, and he might even be better than that. And if there's better players than that available in front of you that you can take them. But you got a 30 to 35 goal scorer for at least 10 years in the league. So I was a little surprised, but not surprised because of what you just said. The tape measure thing always comes into play on draft table. It does. It just does. And lots of organizations look at their group and they say, if we're going to win a Stanley Cup, we have to be bigger, we have to be stronger, we have to watch what Florida just did, or what the LA Kings did a few years ago, or what some other teams that won did. And that's the way they think. And, can you win with 20 Cole Caulfields? I say yes. I say you can. But I had the good fortune to coach him. I know how brave he is. I know how competitive he is. I know what he does to win. I'm just happy he's doing well. I'm happy for the Canadians and Mark Bergevin and Rob Ramage did a lot of scouting. They did a lot of prep work before he got to Montreal to help him be ready for when he did get there. So I give them credit for drafting the right kid and then helping him and to mature to be ready for when he did leave college to be ready for Montreal, and he was.
And also his personality, Tony. I thought being an extrovert, someone who just lights up when he smiles, just that kind of factor for a team. I look at him and you can just see the confidence ooze out of him. That has to be contagious to your teammates, correct?
Has to be, and it is. It is. He's confident. He's got a swagger to him, and the one thing he does better than anybody, and you can say it from an American player. Obviously, Cole Eiserman passed him with the record, whatever. But at the time, he broke the record by Kane and Kessel and Matthews and these other guys by not just one or two, but 30 or 40 goals. So he does something special that other players just can't do, and that's finish. He can finish. But the other part, you mentioned the smile and the charisma and the personality. It's a confidence, and he's like, give me the puck, put me on the ice. I don't care who I'm playing against. I'll find a way to score. That's the way he was from the day he stepped on campus here, the 2 years that I watched him at the program. And I would go down and watch that team just for entertainment purposes. I mean, that team was loaded. Boldy, Spencer Knight, Jack Hughes, Alex Turcotte was there who came to us as well. York. I think there's 10 guys that are playing regularly in the NHL from that team right now that are all doing really, really well. That was one heck of an entertaining team to just watch. So I'd fly into Detroit, drive to Plymouth, and just watch those kids practice because they were so good. I was learning from them. And that's another thing that you can say about great players. And there's a couple of them behind me, Gretzky and Crosby. I don't know if you can see the jerseys behind me.
Yep.
Sid's over there somewhere. But you learn from great players, no matter how much experience I have as a coach and around the game. When you get a player like Caulfield, you get a player like Crosby to coach, you learn from them every single day. And that I can say about Cole Caulfield as well. As a young player, I listened to him, I watched him, and I learned from him.
I think the thing that's impressed me the most about Cole Caulfield is that he's learned how to evolve at the NHL level. Like, you can score goals one way at the development program, you can score goals another way in college, but it's different when you get to the NHL because the competition is so much better. And I was talking to Kent Hughes last year about Cole, and he mentioned just how much of an asset that Marty St. Louis has been for him, working on lots of different elements of his game. How have you seen his game evolve a little bit or add that next layer when it comes to the NHL?
And I'm glad you brought that up, Frank, because great players don't stop learning, and they're curious about everything. They want to know what another player is doing. Like Macklin Celebrini is another example. He modeled his game after Sidney Crosby and maybe a few other players, and everything that those guys were trying on the ice, he'd bring to practice the next day to try. That was Cole Caulfield. And so, from a goal scoring standpoint, we used to create drills for Sid when I was in Pittsburgh to try to help him be able to master a different skill that maybe he wasn't as polished as maybe another player was, or he saw somebody do something the night before and he wanted to try it the next day in practice. And those were the types of things that Cole was curious on as well. If he saw somebody score a goal or the puck came off his stick a certain way off of a one-timer, he wanted to experiment and try things. So I think that's where great players, are become even better, and they don't level out. They just continue to grow and get better. And I can say that Cole fits into that category.
Yeah, you wonder. He does kind of have a Brett Hall to his game, and as he gets more wise and gets maybe even better teammates and they get better, you wonder if he could be like a 60 to 70 goal guy. When that one year when everything goes in and you get 25 power play, like you wonder he has that in him, because he just doesn't matter how big you are when you find the dead spots on the ice, right? So it doesn't matter your size. When you were ready for the perfect angle and you get that pass and you understand the geometry of the game, he'll probably keep getting better at that.
The geometry is great. The other thing that we always forget to kind of point out, because we always look at his shot. Well, how does he get open? Because every defender that's on the ice when Cole Caulfield's out there wants to check him and take time and space away and not let him, get that room to be able to get that shot off. His skating and his edge work and his hip movement to be able to open up, to be available in every single passing lane that's available to the passer. That's where he's brilliant. He can dissect the defense, and like you said, geometry wise, or geometric wise,
right,
able to analyze the play that's happening and know where to go and know how to get there to be available. And a great shooter makes an ordinary passer a great passer, because he can become available and he can spread out the area that when the pucks come, and he can adjust to it to be able to find a way to get that shot off. And he certainly fits into that category as well.
All right, Tony, you've been an NHL head coach. You've been an NHL assistant for a long time. One of the things we were talking about today was the Jack Adams Award. And I think it's such an odd award in a sense that, first off, there seems to be a little bit of a curse around it. The guys that have won it recently haven't lasted very long behind the bench with that current team. But beyond that, it seems to be so connected to preseason expectations. We thought this team would be mediocre, and this coach has taken them to another level, or we thought this team would be poor and he's turned them into a playoff team. As we look at some of the candidates for this year's Jack Adams, and here's 5 of them on your screen here, is there someone that stands out with the work that they've done that you think makes them a particularly good candidate?
Yeah, I love all those candidates. So Coop's never won, and he's still coaching how many years now? So he has maybe always finished in second or third, so he doesn't have to have that curse of winning and not lasting much long after. But if I look at it, those guys are all Dan Muse for me, because I had Pittsburgh. I thought Pittsburgh was on the downfall. I was worried about Sid not being in the playoffs again this year. So I was overly impressed at not only what the team's done just from the day one of training camp on how he took charge, gave them something to get excited about, made them believe that they could really have a successful season. I think Dan Muse is there. Obviously, the other guys, Lindy's done a heck of a job. I'm a big fan of Q on what he's done as well. And I also think the guy there that I think should be in the mix is Patrick Waugh. I think Patty Waugh. And I know we give credit to Schaefer coming in there and having a huge impact. Well, the reason he's had a huge impact is the coach figured out how to, put him in there, help him develop. And that's a team that, you look at the Rangers and the Devils, and you would have thought they were going to be way ahead of the Islanders this year, and the opposite has happened. So I put Patty Waugh in that mix as well. And if I was voting today, I think I'd take Dan Muse today. But in 2 or 3 weeks, when things settle down and we get to that final game and we look at the standings and we see how these guys finish, it's possible that one of the other guys could pass.
Yeah, I agree on Muse. We don't have a vote for that, but I would vote for him for Coach of the Year right now as well. And I agree on Waugh. I'm so impressed. We get to talk to these coaches before the game. And I agree, Tony. He empowered Matthew Schaefer early. Some coaches might not be rookie kind of coaches, and they might, I don't know, let's wait. they saw probably the second or third practice he was their best player. This guy's going to play a lot. He's good. And also Glenn Gulletson in Dallas. I think that's a tough to replace Peter DeBoer, and it looks like he's actually maybe improved them a little bit. Guys having great years across the board. They're only 2 points behind Colorado. He's really come in and really being patient, waiting his turn. Maybe should have got a shot a little earlier, but again, as you look back on your head coaching days in the NHL, if a young coach would come to you, what is one of the most important things that you need to grasp early to do the job as effectively as possible?
Oh, one of the things I just think, going in prepared, as far as having a game plan in place, but always being ready to understand that your game plan that you have in place has to be adjusted daily. So you can't go in there like this and say, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to run it like this. This is how the lines are going to be. This is how we're going to run our power play. You got to go in there and you have to be flexible to the team and the players and the personalities that you have. I think was the biggest thing. I was fortunate when I got to Colorado, the players I coached. Patrick Waugh was one of them. Who was a thrill to coach. And again, from a coach's standpoint, you learn as much from the players as they learn from you. And if you go into it that mindset and understand, there's players that have special qualities, and as a coach, you come in and you have to understand and absorb their needs as much as they have to absorb yours. And I think that would be my one thing. Be flexible. Don't go in there and think that your way is the way. You got to have a good plan going in. You got to have the support team and the assistant coaches that understand what you're going to try to bring to the organization as a staff, but be flexible. I mean, again, I coach those guys, Sakic, Forsberg, Hayduk, Blake, Foote, Waugh. Then I go to Pittsburgh and I got Malkin, Crosby, Letang, and Flower, and all those guys. So again, as a coach, you go in there with your ideas, but again, you absorb what the messages that they're sending to you, and you try to give them the best chance to win every night. And that's the art of coaching is a lot to do with the relationship and the communication and the respect you have from understanding the people and the personalities that you are coaching.
Cool. And before we let you go, I just have to say, obviously, your sister, Cammie, was the first captain of the first women's Olympic team that won gold medal. You have a USA Hockey background. I assume you were all in on the gold medal game. Where were you? Where were you watching? And what was your reaction? Were you rooting like a little kid, like I was, screaming up and down, jumping up and down?
So the couple things happened for the men's game. I was supposed to work NHL Network, and that was the day of the storm. So the network saw the storm coming. They got all of the talent out of town on Saturday night. So I didn't get to do the game on Sunday, which I was disappointed upon. I thought I'd have an opportunity to talk through it and be around it. But the best part was I flew to Chicago and I watched the game at 7 a.m. with my parents. And
wow,
to me, it was the most special place to be. I've sat on the couch at 7 a.m. I told my dad, I said, hey, sleep in. I landed at 12:30 at night. I go right to his place. I said, hey, sleep in. And I said, I'll wait and we'll watch it together. I'll push play and we'll watch it together so we don't miss anything. And sure enough, 6:30 when I wake up, he's sitting right on the couch ready. So I enjoyed that. We did jump up and down. We did celebrate that. The women's won a few days before, the same thing. I was in studio for that one, so I was able to enjoy that. I mean, what a special, both of those events, both of those teams were so special. And it says a lot, I guess, about where USA Hockey is. I think we've all said the same thing in the past little while. We've come a long way. It's been a long time. We've all waited for the moment where we could, double gold. And then now the sled team wins and we triple gold. So it's been a special year for us.
Man, that's a great story. It's one of those moments, where were you when it happened moment? And like just a story like that. It's what makes the game so great, and it just lives on and on and on with the stories. Sitting with your mom, and I would have loved to have done something like that. Watch with your parents. That's so cool. Wow, what a hockey life! What a hockey family. The Granatos and Tony, you're so generous with your time today. Thank you so much for joining us on Frankly Hockey. Just always love seeing you, running into you, and I know you wouldn't want to say goodbye without saying "Go Badgers." It's in your blood.
I think they're going to sneak in. I've been watching your rankings. You still got them live? Okay.
They're in 98% chance. It would have to be. So many things would have to happen. So Badgers in the NCAA tournament again. Hopefully they'll get hot again, led by Mike Hastings and maybe Cinderella story. Hey, Tony, have a great day. Thanks
Pleasure,
so
you
much.
guys. Thanks, you guys, so much.
Thanks, Tony.
Always a pleasure.
What a family. The great Tony Granato. Just so great, man. When you talk about a vicious, oh my goodness, he would dissect your spleen in the middle of a game to win with the end of his hockey stick. Surgical. Great stuff. All right, let's ask the insider to ask the YouTube chat to get our people involved. Get involved, Frank.
Yeah, get involved. Tuddy was in the chat and he said, "Thank you, Tony, for all your family has done for the sport." So nice little send off from Tuddy there.
Truly.
He also had a question: how are awards voted on? So that's an easy one to answer.
That's your area.
Hart, Norris, Calder, Bing, and all rookie teams
Calder
and all-star teams.
Yep. And Norris too, right?
Yep, Norris, I said that.
Yep.
Conn Smythe as well. Those are all voted by the Professional Hockey Writers Association, which I had the privilege of running for 6 years. Those ballots go out in two weeks or so, and they are due back the night of puck drop of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's a purely regular season award. You cannot turn in a ballot once the playoffs begin. Then the Vezina is voted by the general managers, and the Jack Adams is voted by the Broadcasters Association. So there's a little bit of a spread the love kind of thing. Oh, the Masterton is one that I missed too. That's voted by the hockey writers as well. So yeah, a spread, and lots of different constituencies have a say. And of course, the Ted Lindsay is voted on by the NHLPA.
Yeah. And a couple years back, a vote came my way out of nowhere, a ballot, which I really appreciate and love doing and take very seriously. I feel like you're part of history. Thank you, Frank, so much for that. That was a big deal to me. And it still is, the last few years, however long I get to do it. I've been in the Hobie Baker committees. And now, like I said, just these last, I think, 4 years now, just you're part of that vote. You're part of that award. That was either won or not, And so it's a great honor, and I really love a kid doing that. So it was really cool.
I was just going to say, one of the coolest honors that I had was calling Wayne Gretzky and saying, "Hey, Wayne, would you like to vote on the Hart, Norris, Calder, Lady Byng, and all these NHL awards? Like, how many Hart Trophy winners have ever voted on the Hart Trophy?" But as a media member and a broadcaster, he was like, "This would be such a thrill for me." Like the fact that he said, it'd be really cool if I got an honor like this, and he turned in his ballot, and it was amazing just to see how excited he was to put in the work to vote on these awards that obviously mean a great deal to him.
That's really cool. I didn't realize that. That's really, really cool. All right. # hockey time. Can a player own a puck? The old Jack Hughes story kind of got some fire, more Olympic. We get so much great content, as we just did. Tony Granato saying that he flew home to watch with his mom and dad after they got him out of work. It just fringe benefit, made something out of nothing. And now the Jack Hughes story continues. He wanted that puck to put on his mantle. Players get their first NHL goal puck. That's not a problem. But this one seems to be a little bit of kerfuffle.
Yeah. Comments about the puck blew up a little bit. Were you surprised by that, or is there anything you wanted to clear up with that?
No, I mean, listen, like, obviously honored that the puck's there. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, it's like the most special place in hockey. So, yeah, I mean, I'm honored that it's there, but obviously I think things were taken, crazy. Like, just that's the way I felt. And I didn't know where the puck was, so it is what it is.
I think he still wants it. And I don't blame him, to tell you the truth. I know, like, I was kind of on his side there. Like, maybe the Hall of Fame can have it for a year, but they have a million things in that thing. It means more to him than it does them. He could probably give him something else. Like, he's the player. They make the moments. I know most people are probably not on my side of this one, but that's not how I form my opinions. I'm not a contrarian. I'm not looking for popular either. I just tell you how I feel. That's how I feel. And like, I think he should have the puck.
So I get that notion for sure. I would disagree with you. And I would say that, as the Hall of Fame stated pretty succinctly, the puck wasn't his to have. And that custody of it, or the battle of that, the notion of it, It's an IOC tournament hosted by the IIHF. And when the goal was scored, they take possession of the puck, just as they do with any other artifacts they'd like to hang on to. And I think in a lot of ways, it felt a little bit childish to me, in the sense that I want it, me. I want to give it to my dad. I want it on a mantle. It's for my family. And I get that. But so too could the game used jersey or his helmet or gloves or stick or skates, whatever it is. Give that to your dad. Allow this piece of like truly hockey history to be in a place where tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people can see it every year. And it's bigger than Jack. It's bigger than the Hughes family. It's bigger than the game. Maybe if the conversation was, hey, I'd like that to be in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame in Eveleth, Minnesota, then maybe that's a different conversation. But instead it was like me. And that part I didn't really get. I know that it's his moment and his goal, but the game's bigger than that.
Yep, that's how I feel, though. I think he could bring the puck to a New Jersey game, have a display. People can take pictures next to it. He's the one who scored the goal, and baseball players get their 500th home run. If it goes in the bullpen, they give it to him. If it goes in the crowd, some people don't give it to him or make a trade. They'll sell it. They do that too, and that's not really their ball to have. Why is it the fans' ball to have in a home run record-breaking home run? And why can't the player why is it his to have? It seems like there's different rules for different people.
I get it. Fair argument.
You got to speculate to accumulate in life sometimes, people. You got to ride it out. You got to be strong. Frank, are we still in double digits? Oh, look at that. Eric Lindros. Good player.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. But you want to get back up. Where you going tonight? Big games.
A tough run. Yeah. We were at plus almost 15 units a short time ago. So it has been a cold stretch. So take this non-gambling advice at your own peril. But I'm going to try and
keep your confidence.
I'm going to try and take a little bit of a different approach today. And I'm going to take I'm going to take the Habs on a coin flip in Detroit. It's dead 50-50 even at this juncture. The Canadiens have been a better team than the Detroit Red Wings this season. They've been a better team than the Detroit Red Wings of late. And yes, this game probably means a little bit more for the Red Wings, who got a boost with Dylan Larkin back skating. Not ready to return to the lineup yet, but definitely a positive trend in the right direction. They've had a tough month of March. They've struggled in the last few months of March. So I'm going to say Canadiens on the money line. Just a total coin flip and see what happens.
All right. And they might have Kopp back tonight. I think he got healthy earlier than they thought as well. You're right. Larkin not quite ready, but Kopp might go. And so that, give them a little bit of a boost, get people back to where they were playing before. But yeah, I can see that. The Canadiens goal scoring, Red Wings are having an issue scoring goals. So let's see if the Canadiens can help Frank get back on the good side.
Here's one small thing to watch, one little trend. The Canadiens goalies have been better on the road than they have been at home. I don't know why that is, but when the Canadiens have gotten good goaltending, they usually score more than enough to win.
Yeah, it's a pressurized place, in a good way, but every game feels big in Montreal, so maybe still getting used to that. Again, Jets, Bruins, Rangers, Blue Jackets, Islanders, Sens, Canadiens, Red Wings, Blackhawks, Wild. I'll be doing that one tonight. Krakens, Panthers, Oilers, Lightning, Canucks, Mammoth, Golden Knights, Sabres, Sharks. That's going to be a fun one late night with Macklin. And Flyers, Kings. So it's all kinds of important games tonight on the NHL schedule as we wind down, getting close to single-digit games remaining for all NHL teams. Another week or so. Happy trails. Duck broadcaster announced his retirement at the conclusion of this season, Frank. He'll be in the booth to call the club's final regular season home game Sunday, April the 12th. He'll retire after a 50-year career as a play-by-play announcer, including the last 27 seasons as the audio play-by-play voice of the Ducks.
And an amazing career for Steve Carroll. Just wanted to give him a shout out, as they mentioned also in that release that he's taking a step aside for some health reasons as well. So wish him all the best in good health for him and his family. But his career is incredible. All the different stops that he's made. He had 1 year as the Flyers radio play-by-play guy that I remember as a kid. Then went back to calling games in the minors before getting a shot with those Anaheim Ducks in the late 90s. So wish Steve all the best. Truly a humble guy, always has a smile, likes to yak it up with anyone who's in the press box, and just one of those familiar faces and voices, more importantly, that you're going to miss seeing around the rink. So what an incredible career for Steve Carroll, a guy who just grounded out at any point, whether it's calling baseball or football or whatever it took to get here. He was willing to do it all.
Great stuff. Yeah, I've often said that a cold rink is one of the warmest places in town, and to see those faces, certainly you take your kid to a youth hockey, seeing other parents, and it's a great place to go and hang and drink your coffee. And same with the NHL rink, to see all those familiar faces throughout every game is always a special, special thing. So good luck, Steve. Stick taps to you, and glad you're going out on a good Duck season with a hope on the rise and a playoff-bound team as well. With the Anaheim Ducks this year, it appears you think get that Pacific Division title. They are in first as we speak. All right. Great show, Frank. Great hooking up here in Minnesota with you. We travel day tomorrow, flying back east. I'm calling the Women's National Championship game this Sunday in Penn State. The Frozen semifinal games will be tomorrow, so I'll be driving to Penn State while that goes on and looking forward to calling that Natty on Sunday. Some of the Olympians, a lot of Olympians are in that Frozen. So that maybe some will have a double, a gold medal and a national championship. It's possible.
Enjoy my alma mater, Happy Valley.
I will, for sure. Great media department there. Emily Kaplan, also a Penn State alum. For Frank Seravalli, the Hockey Insider, I'm John Buccigross. We thank you so much for watching. Frankly, every single day, please tell a friend. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, 11 Central, sometimes for me.